Hey guys, and welcome to the video. We're going to be discussing the ongoing drama surrounding the live action remake of Snow White and the recent comments from the original director's son. So get ready to experience more drama than what you'd see in a courtroom TV show. But before we get started, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and stay up to date with all of the movie news we have going on around here. So guys, we're going to be jumping into this movieweb.com article. Rachel Zegler-led Snow White remake slammed by original film director's son. David Hand says he believes his father and Walt Disney would be, quote, turning in their graves due to the recent remakes of Disney classics. Yeah, so it's just more evident over the years that as Disney continue to put out these live action remakes, they're changing way too much of the original source content. And as they've put more and more of these movies out, people are beginning to get really, really fed up with them changing all the original movies, changing too much and altering songs, altering, part of what makes the characters essential. And it's all kind of culminated with this Snow White movie that people are just really fed up with now. And it's kind of exploded all over the internet, especially with the comments of the actress coming out recently as well. So let's have a look at a summary of this article quickly. So the upcoming live action Snow White remake is already facing criticism for its departure from the original film, while star Rachel Zegler calling it extremely dated and focusing on the protagonist's inner journey instead of a love story. The son of one of the original film directors, David Hand, disagrees with the remake and finds it a disgrace that Disney is changing the story and characters. The casting choices for the film, including a diverse group of 7 people instead of traditional dwarfs and a Latina actress as Snow White, have also been met with backlash and accusations of taking roles away from little people. So yeah, it gets to a certain point there, doesn't it? If you're remaking an original movie like Snow White, if you change a certain percentage of the movie, then it's no longer, what it used to be. If you change 60% plus of the movie, why not just make an original movie instead of using the IP of Snow White? Just make something original, new and different. If you're changing everything and you don't like any of the original content of Snow White, then just make something original. Even if it's similar, just using the Snow White IP and then radically changing everything, of course it's going to piss a lot of people off. So anyway, guys, Disney live-action Snow White remake isn't due to hit theaters until 2024, but the film is already receiving its share of criticism. Past interviews with the film star Rachel Zegler, who portrays the titular character, have recently made headlines. Zegler has said that the old film, which was released in 1937, is extremely dated when it comes to the ideas of women being in roles of power, and called the prince a stalker. Yeah, I bet the PR department at Disney, once she came out and said that during an interview that was filmed and it went obviously all over the internet, I bet the PR department had, they had a nightmare. They must have had to talk to her and said, look, you cannot say stuff like this. You cannot say stuff like that. Like, it was just the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. She added the new film as less a love story and more about the protagonist's inner journey that she goes on to find her true self. That, to me, their inner journey that she goes on to find out about, that's just a load of gobbledygook. That doesn't even mean anything. To find your true self, like what? Like nobody cares about that. We want to see the original story of her falling in love with the prince. That is what the story is, and inner journey to find one's true self. If I want that, then I'll go and watch some documentary on psychology or something. Like, it's just crazy. While all that may seem appealing to some, a very small minority of people for sure, there are often others that have slammed the actress and the upcoming remake. Yep. So the 1937 film, was Disney's first ever animated film. Yeah, that's what makes it all the more of a crime in some ways. It's the fact that it was their first animated film. And this is the treatment that they're going to give it. And it is very, very insulting, not only to the people that originally created the content, it's also kind of insulting to the audience as well, to change all this story and then try to convince people that it's still Snow White. That's kind of insulting the audience and kind of making the audience feel stupid that Disney are trying to pull the rug out from underneath us. So in 1989, the United States Library of Congress selected it as one of the first 25 films for preservation in the National Film Registry. That's really, really cool, actually. The film counted on a number of directors, including production supervisor David Hand. In a recent interview with The Telegraph, Hand's son, who shares his father's name, revealed his feelings about the upcoming remake. So, the original director's son goes on to say, quote, "It's a whole different concept and I just totally disagree with it. And I know my dad and Walt would have very much disagreed with it. I disagree with the whole new concept." Yeah, so he probably feels insulted about the whole thing as well. His dad, made this beautiful piece of filmmaking. This animation, this original was, it goes down in history as an absolute classic, the Snow White movie. And just to see people butchering your dad's work, it must be quite painful to some degree. Obviously, I can't speak to how he feels, but obviously reading this quotation from him, he's got to be feeling that to some degree. So, Hand added that it was, quote, a disgrace that Disney is trying to do something new with something that was such a great success earlier. Their thoughts are just so radical now. They changed the stories, they changed the thought process of the characters, they're making up new woke things, and I'm just not into any of that. I find it quite frankly a bit insulting, what they may have done with some of these classic films. There's no respect for what Disney did and what my dad did, and I think Walt and he would be turning in their graves. Yeah, that's quite a strong comment. So coming from the original director's son here, David, it sounds like he's pretty upset with this whole thing. That he doesn't feel his dad's work was appreciated. He feels that his dad and Walt Disney would be, very disappointed and upset with the way that Disney has come into making their live action remakes. And I think a lot of people are feeling the same as well. It's just kind of sad just to watch a company like Disney, who used to be so fantastic and so great, and everybody universally loved Disney back in the day, but to watch them come out and just butcher this beautiful piece of animation, it's kind of hard to watch to some degree, and that's part of the reason why everybody's so angry, I think. So, more backlash for Snow White. It never stops. So Zegler's comments and the, quote, woke update to the original film are not the only thing that seem to be rubbing people the wrong way. While the original film had the 7 dwarfs take in and befriend Snow White after she flees her home, the new live-action adaptation will instead feature 7 people of different races, sizes, and genders. But before Disney moved in that direction, Peter Dinklage discussed why he thought it was sickening to the old story that 7 dwarves living in a cave together was dated on an episode of Mark Maron's What the Fuck podcast. So he goes on to say, quote, literally no offense to anything, but I was sort of taken aback. They were very proud to cast a Latino actress as Snow White, but you're still telling the story of Snow White and the 7 dwarfs. Take a step back and look at what you're doing there. It makes no sense to me. You're progressive in one way, but you're still making that effing backward story about 7 dwarves living in a cave together. Have I done nothing to advance the cause of my soapbox? I guess I'm not loud enough. So apparently Peter Dinklage, the guy who was in Game of Thrones, he came out, he made this comment, and a lot of people think that Disney changed the dwarf characters based on this comment. Whether that's true or to some degree, I'm not really sure about that. But yeah, apparently he comes out and he speaks for all, he speaks for all dwarves now. And yeah, it's just crazy because he might feel this way, but there's other people, there's other people that have the same stature as him that have come out. There was someone on the Piers Morgan show who came out and basically said, that's 7 dwarf roles that could have been given to people of his stature and people in his community. And now that's 7 roles that have been taken away from him and his fellow community that they could have fulfilled. So actors of his stature find it hard to get roles in the first place. Obviously, with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory prequel coming out as well, there was a trailer and there was an Oompa Loompa in the trailer that could have been fulfilled by, people with a smaller stature as well. But they decided to CGI Hugh Grant into the role. So they're taking even more roles away from people, So that's even more backlash. Yeah, so this whole project is just really, really down in the dumps at the moment. And unless they somehow pull an amazing marketing campaign out of their backside, man, this project's going to be in trouble. While Dinklage felt that way, others saw the change in casting news as taking roles away from little people. Yeah, that's exactly what I was just saying, guys. So, that's roles that they find difficult to find, and it's perfect casting for people of a smaller stature that could fulfill those roles. And they feel like they've been robbed of those roles now because Disney want to fulfill dwarf roles with magical people instead. It's absolutely crazy. Even Zegler casting as Snow White has been met with criticism, as she is half Colombian and half Polish. I have to say for myself, when it comes to the role of Snow White, someone who's not, white being put in the cast of Snow White, I myself don't find it that bad because she can still play the character, whether she's white, brown, black, mixed, Asian. It makes no difference to me in a way because she can still fulfill the essence of that role, being the princess, falling in love with the prince. So it doesn't change anything. But ultimately changing dwarves into not dwarf into magical people, that's changing the essence of what the characters are. So for me, that's slightly different. While the casting seems to be less triggering than Halle Bailey's The Little Mermaid casting, there are some that are not pleased with the Latina portraying the titular role. It's interesting to note that Snow White is a popular fairy tale in many Spanish-speaking countries, titled Blanca Nieves. Snow White is set for release March 22, 2024. The film is directed by Mark Webb from a screenplay by Greta Gerwig. That was the person who just did Barbie. And Erin Cressida Wilson, along with Zegler. The film stars Gal Gadot as the evil queen. Yeah, this is another thing that people were saying about the movie as well, guys, just before we finish off the video. It's funny because in the original, obviously the evil queen, she's jealous of Snow White's good looks, right? Say what you want about Rachel Zegler, right? She's she's semi-attractive, but Gal Gadot is like one of the most beautiful women on the planet. Why would she be jealous of Rachel Zegler, like in the movie? Like, do you know what I mean? The evil queen is Gal Gadot, and she's jealous of another woman's looks. It's kind of, if you were Gal Gadot, you wouldn't be jealous of anybody else's looks, would you? Like, it's just crazy. But yeah, that's just me anyway. So yeah, that's kind of where we are, guys. So the drama continues on. The original director's sons came out and made these really kind of stern comments that he thinks that his father and Walt Disney would, be turning in their graves. They would hate this. And I think there's a lot of people out there in the community that completely agree with his comments by the looks of it. So guys, that's kind of where we are at the moment. If any more drama comes out surrounding the Snow White remake, I will definitely update the channel. I'll do some more videos on it. I don't want to make too many videos, just if there's nothing else to add to the conversation. But if there is more stuff, I will put it up, guys. So stay tuned. Jump into the comment section. Let me know what you think about the original director's sons. Comments coming out here. And I'd love to see what you have to say. And I will see you